Hi, good evening, everyone. Most of us are coming back from a march in Delhi University right now, and Harsh Mandarji just spoke about something very important. It's called hope. We call it hope, and we have just seen hope. We have seen it flowing through the streets of Delhi University. We have seen hope in the peaceful, non-violent, democratic protests that we just witnessed in Delhi University, and that might actually make our interventions today more hopeful than say on the 22nd of February. For the last 5-6 days, you know what has transpired in Delhi University, and as everyone said, that none of us is an expert on Gujarat riots. The last time that I was in this room was when there was a discussion on the 1984 Sikh pogrom, anti-Sikh pogrom, and it's pretty much the same pattern all over again. And what we witnessed on 22nd February in Delhi University was completely the structure of a riot. That's what happens in basically a riot. You let the riot mobs loose, and the police is suspended. The police is, asked not to act, and we just saw it in action. And 22nd February was a day of extreme disgust and disillusionment. 28th February has come with a new sort of hope, and it's pretty much like the JNU incident all over again. First, you see some doctored videos, then you see a certain kind of narrative being run, and then you see people hitting the streets. My appeal to all of you sitting here is that if we are planning to fight fascism, the time is now. There is nothing that we have to wait for, because these street kids in the streets of DU today, they are resisting fascism in its very जिसको हिंदी में हम लोग गढ़ बोलते हैं, जो इनका स्ट्रॉन्ग होल्ड है उसके अंदर उसको resist कर रहे हैं. And I really I'm amazed by the courage of these students who are armed with nothing but ideas to fight the Sangh. And there are 2-3 things that are that are consistent in all these kinds of violence, be it the Sikh riots, be it the violence on Najib, be it the violence in Delhi University. First of all, the police is completely co-opted. The police is completely hand in glove with the ruling establishment. The other thing is propaganda, and I'd like to speak a little bit about that. Every time a community is attacked, or every time a person is attacked, we take our time before reacting, because we should, because we are rational people, and we are supposed to be educated people, we are supposed to be intellectuals. And before actually siding with one party or the other, we very carefully analyze, okay, what was really the incident? Were slogans raised or not? Did Najib say something or not? Who killed Indira Gandhi, etc., etc.? We always get stuck in this kind of evaluation, but while we do that, before we are actually done making our judgments, until that time the riots are already unleashed, and it's always an event. It's always an event that triggers. Slogans were raised. It's always something will be put out in the mainstream media, which will trigger reactions, or which will be made to trigger reactions. And we have to really think how we are planning to counter that, because I believe I'm speaking to a more or less convinced audience. So we might as well, collectively think about strategies. And if afterwards any of you has a suggestion in this regard, please feel free to make it. Because in the Najib incident, before we could, organize rallies, and before we could mobilize people to come and hit the streets, the right-wing propaganda had traveled far and wide, and there were all these Hindutva pages on Facebook which were openly, calling Najib a terrorist. And while we were debating among ourselves what really happened, who said what, was it really a case of hurt sentiments, etc., etc., till that time the hate propaganda had reached far and wide. And we found ourselves at a position where we were completely unable to counter the propaganda, because it was so vast, it was so huge, and the mainstream media completely blacked out our narrative. And obviously the only time they reported it was as a gherav, was as a blockade, and obviously they portrayed it in a negative light. But we have to really be prepared, because while I was speaking last time here at the anti-Sikh riots convention, there were some concerns raised. For example, today when we look back 30 years after the anti-Sikh pogrom happened, we can very conveniently say, yeah, it was wrong. I mean, Sikhs should not have been killed in the manner that they were killed. I mean, and the people who killed Indira Gandhi, they were actually shot dead on spot. But what were we doing at that time when it was happening? Today, let's say a certain kind of thing were to happen again. Let's just say another great leader, something were to happen to him. Let's just say someone threw a stone at him or someone killed him, whatever. Then what is our response? Do we have our responses ready? Have we debated these principles among ourselves? Have we debated the fundamental principle that violent reactions are not acceptable? Today, when you go to a mainstream media debate, it'll be, there'll be a complete attempt to divert the whole discussion to slogans and this and that, and then Kashmir, and then Naxalism, and then I don't know what. But the fundamental point where we have to draw the line is that we have to counter violence, because most of the violence that happens today is state-backed. And whenever people resist, they are branded as terrorists and Naxalites and whatever. And that's something that we really need to be prepared for. And we really need to think how we are going to counter it. What are the propaganda materials that we will use? How will we rely on Facebook? What if Facebook takes our page down in the middle of a campaign? What do we do then? Do we have alternative platforms? And I guess one of the persons much suited to answer this is Prabir Purkayastha, who's just sitting here. And we need to think in terms of alternatives. We need to think in terms of having our own propaganda networks where we can, put out the actual truth, as opposed to what is always done. I mean, you see these doctored videos, you see these screenshots and these slogan cutouts. We have to think in this direction. That's all I'm going to speak about. Thank you.